The marble floor of the mansion was cold under Toby's bare feet. He stood in the middle of the huge living room, just looking. The room was bigger than his whole home in Ibadan. Through the giant windows, he could see the bright blue water of the Lekki Lagoon. It was beautiful, but it felt like a picture, not a real place. It had been 2 weeks since his mother's funeral, and 1 week since Uncle Ade, his new guardian, had brought him here to live. Everything was so quiet. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the air conditioner and the distant noise of Lagos traffic. He missed the loud, familiar sounds of his old neighborhood. He missed his mother's voice. Suddenly, a different sound broke the silence. It was the sharp click-clack of high heels on the marble. Toby turned to see his Auntie Neoma walking towards him. She was a beautiful woman, always dressed in expensive, tight-fitting clothes. Today, she wore a yellow dress that looked like it cost more than a year of Toby's university fees. She was holding her phone in one hand and a half-empty glass of juice in the other. She stopped in front of him, not smiling. Her eyes looked him up and down. Toby felt self-conscious in his simple t-shirt and trousers. "Toby," she said, her voice smooth but with no warmth. "Your Uncle Ade has left for a very important business meeting in America. He will be away for 3 weeks." Toby just nodded. He knew this already. Uncle Ade had given him a short, firm handshake and told him to be good. Auntie Neoma held out the empty glass. "The house girl, Grace, is not feeling well. I have let her go to her room. So, you will help." She pointed towards the kitchen. "Go to the kitchen. Wash all the plates and pots you see in the sink. Make sure you use hot water and soap. Then, take the mop and clean this floor. It is looking dirty from your footsteps." Toby's heart sank. He was not a stranger to work. He had always helped his mother. But this felt different. It didn't feel like being part of a family, it felt like an order from a boss. He took the glass from her. "Yes, Auntie," he said quietly. He walked into the massive kitchen. The sink was piled high with plates from breakfast. There were pots with stuck-on food. For a moment, he just stared at it, feeling a heavy sadness. He thought of his mother's small, warm kitchen. He would wash, and she would dry, and they would talk about his day at school. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. The hot water stung his hands, but he kept washing, scrubbing each plate until it shone. He was so focused on his task that he didn't hear someone come into the kitchen. "Hey, new guy!" Toby jumped and almost dropped a plate. He turned around. Standing in the doorway were 2 young men. They looked exactly the same. They were twins, maybe a year or 2 younger than him. They were both tall and light-skinned, wearing expensive-looking basketball shorts and sneakers. Toby recognized them. They were the sons of Chief Okonkwo, Uncle Ade's business partner. They were staying in the guest house for the summer. Uncle Ade had told him to stay away from them. The one who spoke had a smirk on his face. "So you are the one from the village, ABI? The one whose mother died?" Toby's whole body went stiff. He said nothing, just turned back to the sink and continued washing a pot. The other twin laughed. "Don't mind my brother. I'm Chitty, and this is Chima. We heard Auntie Neoma put you to work. Don't worry, she is like that with everyone." Toby still didn't speak. He could feel their eyes on his back. Chima, the first one, walked closer. "What's wrong? You know they talk? You think because you live in this big house now, you are better than us." "I don't think that," Toby said, his voice low. "Good," Chima said. He leaned against the kitchen counter, very close to Toby. "Because you are just a houseboy here. Look at you, washing plates. You think our mate. You are our mate." Chitty came and stood on the other side, trapping Toby between them. "My brother, leave Am. Maybe he is shy." Chima wasn't listening. He pulled out a crisp, new 1,500 naira note from his pocket. He waved it in front of Toby's face. "See this? This is for you. But you have to beg for it." Toby's hands were clenched tight under the soapy water. He thought of his mother. He thought of her pride. She worked so hard so he would never have to beg. "Come on," Chitty joined in, his voice teasing. "Just say, 'Please, masters, I beg you for this money.' It is easy." Toby took a deep breath. He slowly pulled his hands out of the water and dried them on the small towel nearby. He turned to face the twins. His dark skin was a stark contrast to their own, and his eyes, for the first time, held a fire they had not seen before. He looked at the 1,500 naira note, then directly into Chima's eyes. "I am not your mate," Toby said, his voice quiet but clear and strong. "And I am not your houseboy. My name is Toby. My mother was a teacher. And I will not beg you for anything." The smirk vanished from Chima's face. He was not used to being talked to like this, especially not by someone he considered beneath him. He crumpled the note in his fist. "You have made a very big mistake," Chima said, his voice now a low, angry growl. Just then, Auntie Neoma's voice rang out from the living room. "Toby! Have you finished? The floor is still waiting." The twins looked at each other and then back at Toby, their expressions promising that this was not over. Toby stood his ground, his heart pounding, knowing that his new life in this mansion was going to be much harder than he ever imagined. The rest of the day was a blur of work. After the twins left the kitchen, their laughter echoing down the hall, Toby finished the dishes. Then, he mopped the vast living room floor, his arms aching. Auntie Neoma walked past him twice without a word, just checking his work with a sharp eye. Evening came, and the mansion grew dark and quiet. Toby was tired, his body sore. He walked down the long hallway to the beautiful guest room Uncle Ade had shown him. The bed was large and soft, and for a moment, he looked forward to sinking into it and forgetting this terrible day. But when he pushed the door open, the room was empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of everything. The bed sheets, the pillows, the small lamp on the side table, all of it was gone. The room was just a hollow shell. Confused, Toby turned around and almost bumped into Auntie Neoma. She was standing right behind him, her arms crossed. "Looking for something?" she asked, her voice cold. "My room." Toby started. "Where are my things?" "The bed." Auntie Neoma smiled a thin, unpleasant smile. "That room is for important guests, Toby. Not for you. You have not shown the right attitude today. I saw how you spoke to Chima and Chitty. Those boys are from a very important family. You cannot be rude to them." Toby's mouth fell open. "I was not rude, Auntie. They were." She cut him off with a sharp wave of her hand. "I do not want to hear your stories. If you want to live under my roof, you will follow my rules. You will sleep on the balcony tonight. The fresh air will help you think about your behavior." She pointed down the hall, towards the large, open balcony that faced the back of the property. It had a beautiful view, but it was open to the cold night air and the mosquitoes. Toby could not believe what he was hearing. "Sleep on the balcony. But Auntie, it is cold, and the mosquitoes." "Do I look like I am discussing with you?" she snapped. "There is a mat in the storage room. Take it. And a blanket. That is all you get. And remember, Toby," she leaned closer, "if you complain to anyone, especially on the phone to your uncle, life will become very, very hard for you. Do you understand?" Toby looked at her face. He saw no kindness there, only a cold power. He felt a hot anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He was alone. He had no money, no one to call for help. His only family was thousands of miles away. He nodded slowly, his eyes on the floor. "I understand, Auntie." He found a thin sleeping mat and an old, scratchy blanket that smelled of dust. He carried them to the balcony. The night air was indeed cold, and a strong wind was blowing from the lagoon. He could hear the sounds of the city and the chirping of insects. He unrolled a mat on the hard, cold tiles and lay down, pulling the thin blanket over his body. It was impossible to get comfortable. The wind bit through the blanket. Mosquitoes buzzed around his ears and landed on his face and arms. He could see the bright, shining stars in the sky, but they gave him no comfort. He felt smaller and more alone than he had ever felt in his life. Tears of anger and self-pity welled in his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. "It is okay," he said in his mind, thinking of his mother's strong face. "I will endure this. I will do all the jobs. I will be quiet. But when Uncle Ade comes back from the United States, I will tell him everything. He will understand. He is my mother's brother. He will make this stop." This thought became his only comfort. It was the small light in the deep darkness. He held on to it tightly as he shivered on the hard floor. The next morning, he woke up stiff, covered in mosquito bites. Auntie Neoma was already up, sitting at the dining table and eating a bowl of fruit. She did not look at him. "Good morning, Auntie," Toby said, his voice hoarse. She pointed to the kitchen. "Grace is making breakfast. Go and help her. Then you will wash my cars. There are 2 outside." The days began to fall into a painful pattern. Toby would wake up on the cold balcony, help the quiet, sympathetic house girl Grace with chores, and then do whatever hard job Auntie Neoma invented for him, washing cars, weeding the large garden, cleaning the windows. The twins, Chima and Chitty, watched him like hawks, always finding small ways to torment him. They would accidentally spill a drink where he had just mopped, or hide the cleaning supplies and laugh when he couldn't find them. Toby said nothing. He just kept working, his head down. He stored every insult, every cruel word, every night spent shivering on the balcony in his memory. He was building a case for when his uncle returned. One afternoon, about a week later, he was in the garden, pulling out stubborn weeds. The sun was hot, and sweat poured down his face and back. Chima and Chitty walked out, holding cold bottles of soda. "Look at the farmer," Chima said, laughing. "He is in his element." Chitty threw his empty soda bottle onto the grass near Toby. "Hey, houseboy, pick that up for me." Toby stopped weeding. He looked at the bottle, then at the twins. He was so tired, and his patience was wearing thin. But he remembered his plan. Wait for Uncle Ade. He bent down, picked up the bottle, and put it in the trash bag he was carrying. Chima seemed disappointed that he didn't fight back. "You see, he knows his place now. Maybe Auntie Neoma has trained him well." As they walked away, laughing, Toby's phone, which was in his pocket, vibrated. It was a message. He rarely got messages anymore. He wiped his dirty hands on his trousers and pulled it out. It was from Uncle Ade. The message read, "Toby, my boy. Hope you are well and studying. America is busy, busy. The meeting is taking longer. I will not be back for another 3 weeks. Be good. Help your auntie. Uncle Ade." Toby's heart stopped. He read the message again and again. Another 3 weeks. The words felt like a physical blow. The light at the end of his tunnel, the hope he had been clinging to, suddenly vanished. He was trapped here, in this beautiful prison, for 3 more weeks with no rescue in sight. The strength seemed to drain from his body. He sat down heavily on the grass, not caring about the dirt. The hot sun beat down on him, but he felt cold inside. His plan was ruined. What would he do now? How would he survive this? He looked up at the huge, white mansion. It no longer looked beautiful. It looked like a monster that had swallowed him whole. And he was completely alone inside it. The message from Uncle Ade felt like a heavy door slamming shut in Toby's face. Another 3 weeks. He sat on the grass in the hot sun, the phone feeling like a stone in his hand. The hope that had kept him going, the thought of telling his uncle everything, had been his only comfort. Now, it was gone. The weight of the next 21 days felt impossible to carry. He forced himself to stand up. He had to keep moving. If he stopped, the despair would swallow him whole. He went back to pulling the weeds, his movements slow and mechanical. The next morning, he woke up on the cold balcony, his body stiff and covered in new mosquito bites. The sky was just beginning to lighten. He rolled up his thin mat and scratchy blanket, hiding them in the storage room before Auntie Neoma woke up. As he was coming out, he saw Grace, the house girl, heading to the kitchen. She gave him a small, sad smile. She was the only person in the house who ever looked at him with something other than anger or mockery. Suddenly, the quiet morning was shattered by the sound of a powerful car engine and loud, cheerful voices at the front gate. Toby peeked through the window. It was Uncle Ade's black Range Rover. But he wasn't supposed to be back for weeks. Auntie Neoma, who was usually slow to wake up, came rushing out of her bedroom, tying her silk robe. "Ade! My husband! You are back!" she cried out, her voice full of fake surprise and joy. Uncle Ade stepped out of the car, looking tired but happy. He was a big man, dressed in a well-fitted suit. Behind him, Chief Okonkwo, the twins' father, got out of the car, laughing loudly. Ade, my friend, the chief boomed, clapping Uncle Ade on the back. The deal is done. It was a great success. We must celebrate. Toby's heart leaped. His uncle was home. His chance had come early. He stepped out of the hallway, wanting to greet him. But before he could say a word, Auntie Neoma rushed forward and hugged Uncle Ade tightly. Welcome home, my love. We missed you so much. The chief told us the wonderful news about the meeting. Uncle Ade smiled, patting her back. Yes, it went very well. Better than we expected. He noticed Toby standing there. Ah, Toby. My boy. You look, well. Before Toby could answer, Auntie Neoma spoke quickly, her arm still around Uncle Ade. Oh, Toby has been such a good boy, Ade. So quiet and hardworking. He has been helping me so much around the house. And he has started his homeschooling. He is very focused. Uncle Ade looked pleased. Is that so? Good. Education is very important. He turned to Chief Okonkwo. You see, Chief, my nephew is a serious boy. Chief Okonkwo nodded, not really looking at Toby. That is good. Just then, Chima and Chitty came running out, dressed in their expensive clothes. Uncle Ade! Daddy! You are back! There was a lot of laughter and hugging. Toby stood to the side, feeling invisible. This was his moment. He just needed to get his uncle alone for 5 minutes. Listen, everyone. Chief Okonkwo announced. To celebrate our success, I am taking the whole family to a restaurant. A very fine, exclusive one in Victoria Island. My treat. We will eat the best food. Auntie Neoma clapped her hands like a young girl. Oh, Chief. You are too kind. Uncle Ade smiled. A wonderful idea. Toby felt a surge of hope. A family outing. He would be included. In the car, or at the restaurant, he would find a way to talk to his uncle. But Auntie Neoma turned to him, her face a mask of fake kindness. Toby, my dear, she said sweetly, but her eyes were cold and warning. You heard the chief. It is a family celebration. And you have so much work to do. Your studies cannot wait. You understand, don't you? We will bring you some food back. The air left Toby's lungs. He stood frozen, looking from his aunt's cold eyes to his uncle's face. Uncle Ade looked at Toby and then at his wife. He seemed to think for a moment. Neoma is right, Toby, he said finally. This is a business celebration. And your studies are your priority now. A good education is the key to your future. You stay here and focus. We will not be long. It was a gentle dismissal, but it felt like a final judgment. Uncle Ade had chosen to believe his wife's story without asking Toby a single question. The twins smirked at him behind their father's back. Chima silently mouthed the word houseboy. Toby could only nod, his throat too tight to speak. Yes, uncle, he whispered. He watched as they all piled into the chief's big, expensive car, Uncle Ade, Auntie Neoma, Chief Okonkwo, and the twins. They were laughing and talking, a happy, rich family. The car engine purred to life, and they drove off, leaving Toby standing alone in the giant, empty driveway. The silence they left behind was louder than any noise. The mansion felt huge and hollow. He was truly alone. He walked slowly back into the house. The grand living room, which he had mopped just yesterday, seemed to mock him. He thought about going to the balcony where he slept, but he didn't have the strength. He sat down on the bottom step of the large staircase, put his head in his hands, and finally let the tears come. They were quiet tears of utter defeat. His mother was gone. His uncle, his only family, did not see him. He was alone in a big house that was not a home. He didn't know how long he sat there. After a while, he heard a soft noise behind him. It was Grace. She was holding a plate of food, rice and stew. Toby, she said softly, I made this for you. I told Madam I was not feeling well, so I did not go with them. Toby looked up, surprised. He wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed. Thank you, Grace. She put the plate down next to him. I see what they are doing to you, she whispered. It is not right. Sleeping on the balcony, it is not right." Hearing someone else say it, someone who saw the truth, broke something open inside Toby. The tears came again, but this time they were not just from sadness, but from a small feeling of relief. He was not completely invisible. "Thank you," he said again, his voice thick with emotion. Grace nodded. "Eat. You need your strength." Then she went back to the kitchen. Toby ate the food. It was the first warm, kind thing anyone had done for him in this house. As he ate, a new feeling began to push aside the despair. It was a small, hot spark of anger. And with that anger came a new thought. Uncle Ade will not help me. No one is coming to save me. If I want my life to change, I have to save myself. He finished the food and washed the plate. He looked around the empty mansion. They thought he was just a poor boy from the village, someone they could use and ignore. They had left him here alone, thinking he was powerless. But being alone in the house also meant no one was watching him. He walked slowly to Uncle Ade's home office. The door was usually locked, but today, in the excitement of his return and the sudden celebration, Uncle Ade had forgotten. Toby pushed the door, and it swung open. His heart was pounding. He felt like a thief. The office was large, with a big mahogany desk and shelves filled with books and files. He didn't know what he was looking for. He just knew he needed to understand. He needed to find something, anything, that could give him a little power, a little leverage in this unfair war. He sat in his uncle's big, comfortable chair. He looked at the neat piles of paper on the desk. He was afraid to touch anything. What if his uncle came back and found something out of place? But then he remembered Chima's smirking face and Auntie Neoma's cold eyes. He remembered the cold balcony floor. He took a deep breath and pulled open the top drawer of the desk. It was full of pens, stamps, and paper clips. Nothing useful. He opened the second drawer. This one had files. He pulled out a thick one. The label on it read, Okonkwo, Lagos Shores Project. He opened the file. Inside were many documents with official stamps. There were maps of a large piece of land near the beach. He didn't understand most of the legal words, but as he flipped through the pages, he saw his uncle's signature and Chief Okonkwo's signature on many documents. Then, tucked to the back of the file, he found a different, smaller piece of paper. It was a handwritten note. The writing was messy, like someone had written it in a hurry. It was from Chief Okonkwo to Uncle Ade. "Ade, my brother," the note read. Asterisk, the surveyor's report is a problem. It says the land is not good for building. The government man, Alhaji Dauda, must not see this report. Give him the other one, the one we made. And the extra $5,000 for him is in the brown envelope. This project must not fail. Chief. Asterisk. Toby read the note again and again. His hands were trembling. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. This note was about lying. It was about bribing a government official. It was a secret. This was what they had been celebrating. A successful deal built on a lie. He heard the sound of a car gate opening outside. They were back. His heart jumped into his throat. With shaking hands, he quickly took a picture of the note with his phone. Then, he put the note back exactly where he found it, closed the file, and put it back in the drawer. He closed the drawer, wiped the desk with his sleeve to remove any fingerprints, and rushed out of the office, closing the door softly behind him. He ran to the kitchen, his heart pounding like a drum. Grace was there, washing a pot. He stood by the sink, trying to look calm. A moment later, the front door opened, and the happy, noisy family poured back into the house, their voices loud and full of good food and laughter. Auntie Neoma saw him in the kitchen. "Toby! Good, you are still awake. We brought you some chicken." She handed him a small takeaway box. It was a piece of chicken, now cold, and a small portion of fried plantain. "Thank you, Auntie," he said, his voice steady. She looked at him, her eyes searching his face, but she saw only a quiet, obedient boy. She nodded, satisfied, and walked away to join the others. Toby held the takeaway box in one hand. In his other hand, in his pocket, he held his phone. And in his phone, he held a secret. It was a small, dangerous thing. He didn't know what he would do with it. But for the first time since he arrived in Lekki, he did not feel powerless. The game had just changed. The secret in Toby's phone felt like a live wire, buzzing with dangerous energy. For the rest of the evening, he moved through the house like a ghost, doing his chores, speaking only when spoken to. Inside, his mind was racing. The picture of the note was proof of something bad, but what could he, a poor boy with no one, really do with it? If he showed it to Uncle Ade, his aunt would just call him a liar and a thief for going into the office. It might make things even worse. He went to sleep on the cold balcony, but he did not sleep. He stared at the stars, thinking. The chicken and plantain from the restaurant sat heavy in his stomach. It wasn't food, it was a symbol of his place here, the leftovers, the afterthought. The next day, the pattern of hard work and insults continued. Auntie Neoma gave him a long list of chores. The twins found new ways to tease him, losing a valuable-looking pen and accusing him of taking it before finding it in their own pocket. Uncle Ade was busy in his office, on the phone, celebrating his successful deal. He didn't see any of it. Toby's new spark of anger was growing, fanned by every cruel word and every unfair task. The hope of waiting for his uncle had died. The secret note was a weapon, but a risky one. He needed something else. He needed a way out. Later that afternoon, a chance came. He was cleaning the living room floor when Auntie Neoma's phone rang. She was in the middle of painting her nails and her hands were wet. "Toby," she called out, annoyed. "Bring my phone to me. It's in my bedroom, on the bed. Quickly." "Yes, Auntie," he said. He walked into her bedroom for the first time. It was huge, with a giant bed and a sweet, strong smell of perfume. Her phone was buzzing on the silk bedsheet. As he picked it up, his eyes fell on her dressing table. It was covered with bottles of cream, jewelry, and makeup. And there, sitting right next to a hairbrush, was a small, pink, plastic box. It looked cheap and out of place among all the expensive things. He had seen ads for it on TV. It was a piggy bank box, a place where people saved physical cash, hiding it from themselves or others. The phone stopped ringing. The room was silent. Toby's heart began to beat very fast. He stood there, frozen, holding the silent phone. He thought about the cold balcony. He thought about the twins' laughing faces. He thought about the 1,500 naira note waved in his face. He thought about being left behind while everyone else went to celebrate. He acted without thinking. It was like someone else was moving his body. He quickly put the phone down on the bed. Then, in one swift movement, he grabbed the pink piggy bank box. It was light. He shook it gently. He heard the soft rustle of paper money. He didn't know how much was inside, but it was something. It was a chance. He hid the box under his shirt, tucked into the waistband of his trousers. He picked up the phone again and walked out of the room, his face a mask of calm. "Here is your phone, Auntie," he said, handing it to her. She took it without looking at him, already dialing a number. "The floor is not yet shining, Toby. Go back to your work." "Yes, Auntie." He went back to mopping, the plastic box pressing against his skin. He felt sick with fear and excitement. He had never stolen anything in his life. His mother would be so ashamed. But his mother was gone, and the people in this house had stolen his dignity every day. Was this so wrong? He waited until much later, deep in the night when the house was completely asleep. The wind on the balcony was especially cold. He hid under his thin blanket and, using the light from his phone, he carefully pried open the plastic box. It wasn't locked. Inside, the money was neatly folded. He pulled it out and counted it with trembling fingers. His eyes widened. It was 150,000 naira. It was more money than he had ever held in his life. For a moment, he felt a sharp stab of guilt. This was a lot of money. But then he remembered Auntie Neoma's cold voice, "You will sleep on the balcony tonight." The guilt vanished, replaced by a cold determination. This wasn't stealing for a fancy phone or new clothes. This was stealing for his survival. The plan formed in his mind quickly, fueled by desperation. He would run away. Tonight. He couldn't take his few belongings, it would look suspicious. He only took the money, his phone, his charger, and the national ID card his mother had helped him get. He put on his best pair of trousers and a clean shirt. He rolled up the mat and blanket and hid them, so it would look like he had never been there. He waited until 3 a.m., when the night was at its darkest and quietest. He crept off the balcony, through the silent living room, and to the front door. It was locked with a heavy bolt. He slowly, carefully, slid the bolt back. It made a soft clunk sound that echoed in the silence. He froze, listening. No one stirred. He pulled the door open, slipped outside, and closed it softly behind him. He was free. The night air outside the gate felt different. It was the same Lagos air, but it felt light and full of possibility. He started walking quickly, not looking back at the big, white mansion. He didn't know where he was going, only that he was getting away. After walking for 30 minutes, he found a small, cheap hotel that was open all night. He paid 5,000 naira for a room for the rest of the night. The room was small and smelled a little strange, but it had a real bed with a clean mattress and a door that locked from the inside. For the first time in weeks, Toby slept in a bed. He slept deeply, without dreams. The next morning, he felt like a new person. He used his phone to search for apartments for rent in Lekki. He knew he couldn't go too far. He needed to stay in the same area to be invisible, but not too close to his uncle's house. He found a listing for a 2-bedroom flat in a less flashy part of Lekki, Phase 1. It was in a simple block of flats, not a mansion. The rent was 90,000 naira for a year, paid up front. He called the number and arranged to see it that afternoon. The landlord, a middle-aged man named Mr. Bello, looked at Toby suspiciously when he arrived. "You are the one who called? You want to rent this flat? How old are you?" Toby had prepared for this. He stood up straight. "Yes, sir. I am 20. I am a student, but I also do online business. My guardian sent me to find a good place." Mr. Bello frowned. "The rent is 90,000 for the year. Up front. No stories." Toby nodded. He opened the small bag he had bought that morning to hold the money. He calmly counted out 90,000 naira and handed it to the surprised landlord. "But there is one small problem, sir," Toby said, trying to sound confident. "I will be traveling for my studies soon. I will find another good tenant to take the flat from me before I go. A good, quiet person. Is that okay?" Mr. Bello looked at the cash in his hand. Having a tenant who would find another tenant was less work for him. He shrugged. "Okay. It is fine. But you must find someone responsible." "I will, sir," Toby said. He paid for the rent and got the keys. He walked into the empty 2-bedroom flat. The paint was peeling in one corner, and the windows were small, but it was his. It was clean. It had a kitchen and a bathroom with a door. He locked the door from the inside and leaned against it, a huge smile spreading across his face. He had done it. With the remaining 60,000 naira, he went to the market. He bought a thin mattress, a pot, a plate, a cup, and some food, indomie noodles, bread, and eggs. It wasn't much, but it was his. That evening, he cooked noodles in his own pot and ate them from his own plate, sitting on his mattress on the floor of his own apartment. He felt a peace and a pride he hadn't felt since his mother was alive. He was free from the balcony. He was free from the insults. He was his own man. But as he lay on his mattress that night, listening to the familiar sounds of Lagos through his own window, he knew this was only the beginning. He had 60,000 naira left. That would not last forever. Auntie Neoma would have discovered the missing piggy bank by now. There would be anger, maybe police. He had escaped. But the war was not over. He was alone in a big city with little money, a stolen secret on his phone, and a powerful family that would be looking for him. His new life had begun, but it was built on a dangerous foundation. The peace Toby found in his small 2-bedroom flat was beautiful, but it was short-lived. For 2 months, life was simple and good. He enrolled in a nearby computer training center, using a little of his remaining money to learn new skills. He was a fast learner, and it felt good to use his brain again. He lived cheaply, eating mostly noodles and beans, careful with every naira he had left. The problem was the second bedroom. Mr. Bello, the landlord, started calling him every week. "Toby, where is the other tenant? You said you would find someone. The room is empty. I am losing money." Toby tried. He put up a small notice at the local shop and spoke to a few people. But either they didn't have the money up front, or they didn't seem trustworthy enough for Mr. Bello. Toby began to feel the pressure. His own savings were running dangerously low. Finally, a man named Gabriel answered the ad. He was a loud, talkative man who drove an old, rickety car. He said he was a businessman. He agreed to the rent and even gave Toby a small advance. Relieved, Toby introduced him to Mr. Bello, who, after asking a few questions, reluctantly agreed. For the first month, it was fine. Gabriel was rarely home, and when he was noisy, but he left Toby alone. Then the second month came, and the rent was due. Gabriel started avoiding Toby's calls. "My brother, patience," Gabriel would say when Toby finally caught him. "The money is coming next week. Big business deal." Next week became the week after. Mr. Bello was now calling Toby every day, his voice growing angrier. "Toby, this is your responsibility. You brought him here. If I don't get my money by the end of this week, both of you will leave my house. Do you hear me?" Toby felt trapped. He had used almost all his money to pay for the flat and his computer classes. He had nothing left to pay for Gabriel's share. He pleaded with Gabriel, but the man just laughed. "Wetten, you dey fear that landlord? No worry, I go settle am." But he didn't settle it. On a hot Friday morning, Mr. Bello came to the flat with two rough-looking men. He banged on the door so hard Toby thought it would break. "Toby! Gabriel! Time up! Come out of my house now!" Gabriel, who was inside sleeping, jumped up. He grabbed his bag and, before Toby could say anything, pushed past him and ran out the back door, disappearing down the street. Toby was left alone to face the landlord. Mr. Bello stormed in, his face red with anger. "Where is he? Where is that good-for-nothing man?" He ran away, sir," Toby said, his heart sinking. "Then you are responsible." Mr. Bello shouted. "You brought him here. You have disgraced me. Get your things and get out. Now." "But sir, I paid my own rent." Toby pleaded. "It does not matter. You are the one who brought a thief into my house. Out, or my boys will throw you and your things into the street." Toby saw the look in the men's eyes. There was no point arguing. With a shaking heart, he packed his few belongings into his small bag, his clothes, his phone charger, his certificate from the computer school. He left the mattress and the pot behind. It was too much to carry. Minutes later, he was standing outside the gate, his bag at his feet. The gate slammed shut behind him. He was homeless again. The 150,000 naira, his freedom money, was gone. He had nothing but the clothes on his back and a few thousand naira left in his pocket. The feeling of failure was so heavy he could barely stand. He started walking, with no destination in mind. He walked for hours, through the noisy, busy streets of Lekki. He saw people in fine clothes going into expensive restaurants. He saw families laughing in their cars. The world was moving on, and he was stuck, with nowhere to go. He couldn't go back to his uncle's house. That was not an option. He was completely alone. As evening fell, tired, hungry, and defeated, he sat on a low curb near a shopping mall, holding his head in his hands. He had failed. His mother would be so disappointed. "Toby? Toby, is that you?" The voice was familiar. Toby looked up, squinting in the fading light. A sleek, silver Mercedes-Benz car had pulled over to the side of the road. The window was down, and a young man was leaning out, a look of shock on his face. It was John. John from secondary school. They had been close friends back then, but they lost contact after school. John looked different. He was dressed in a beautiful, well-fitted shirt and smart trousers. He looked rich. "John," Toby said, standing up, embarrassed by his own rough appearance. "My friend, what are you doing here? You look, come, get in the car." John said, pushing the passenger door open. Feeling dazed, Toby picked up his bag and got into the car. The inside was like a spaceship, cool air, soft leather seats, a bright screen on the dashboard. It smelled new and expensive. "John, this car, what do you do now?" Toby asked, amazed. John laughed, a confident, easy laugh. "God is good, my brother. I am into real estate. Property business here in Lagos." "Real estate? Like, selling houses?" buying and selling, managing properties for rich people. God has blessed me, John said, smiling. He looked at Toby's bag and tired face. But you, my friend. What happened? Tell me everything. As John drove smoothly through the traffic, Toby told him everything. He told him about his mother's death, moving in with his rich uncle, the maltreatment from his aunt and the twins, stealing the money, running away, and finally being chased out by his landlord. He left out the part about the secret note on his phone. Some secrets were too dangerous to share. John listened quietly, his face serious. When Toby finished, he shook his head. Ah, Toby. I am so sorry. That woman is a witch. And your uncle is a fool. But you are a survivor. Stealing that money was smart. You did what you had to do. They drove into a part of Lekki that made Toby's uncle's mansion look average. The houses were huge, like palaces, with high walls and electric fences. John stopped at a giant black iron gate. He pressed a button on a remote, and the gate swung open slowly. Toby's mouth fell open. They were not just driving into a compound, they were driving into an estate. The house in front of them was a massive, modern white mansion, 3 stories high, with glass and marble everywhere. In the wide, circular driveway, there were 6 luxurious cars parked neatly, 2 more Mercedes-Benz, a Range Rover, a Porsche, and 2 sleek, expensive-looking sports cars Toby didn't even recognize. John, whose house is this? Toby whispered. John turned off the engine and smiled. It's mine, my brother. This is my house. Toby could not believe it. John, his friend from the simple, government school? Living in a 250 million naira mansion? John led the stunned Toby inside. The inside was even more breathtaking. The ceiling was so high, and a giant crystal chandelier hung down. The floor was shiny white marble. Everything was new and looked incredibly expensive. Welcome to my humble home, John said, laughing at the look on Toby's face. You see that car outside? The Porsche. I made more than its price from one deal last month. In this business, when you know the right people and you are smart, you can make 100 million naira in a year. He led Toby to a large sitting room with a huge TV on the wall. You have a strong spirit, Toby. What you went through would break many people. But you are still standing. I like that. You don't have to worry anymore. You will stay here with me. Toby felt like he was in a dream. Stay here. With you? Yes. Why not? We are brothers. You can have your own room, your own bathroom. Forget about that small room and that wicked aunt. This is your life now. He called one of the house staff, a young man in a neat uniform. Please, take Toby's bag to the guest room on the 2nd floor. The one with the sea view. And prepare a bath for him. John turned back to Toby, his eyes shining with excitement. Rest tonight. Eat good food. Tomorrow, we will talk. I think I have a job for you. A way you can start making your own money. Real money. As Toby followed the house help up the grand, winding staircase, he pinched himself. This was not a dream. He had gone from sleeping on a cold balcony, to a small rented room, to the streets, and now, he was in a palace. He looked out of the giant window at the end of the hallway. He could see the dark ocean and the lights of boats in the distance. John had called him a survivor. And he was right. But as Toby walked into the beautiful, luxurious bedroom, bigger than his whole flat, a small, cautious voice in his head whispered. John's world was full of money and power, just like his uncle's. And Toby already knew that in such worlds, things were rarely as simple as they seemed. The luxurious bedroom felt like a dream. The bed was so large and soft Toby felt he might disappear into it. The sea view was a panoramic window overlooking the dark, endless Atlantic, its waves crashing softly in the distance, a sound so different from the noisy Lagos streets. He took a hot shower in a bathroom that was bigger than the balcony he used to sleep on, the warm water washing away the grime and despair of the day. For the first time in a long time, he felt clean, both outside and in. He slept a deep, dreamless sleep, wrapped in the kind of quiet peace he thought was lost forever. The next morning, a gentle knock on the door woke him. A young, polite maid in a crisp uniform stood there. Good morning, sir. Mr. John is asking for you. He is in his private living room and would like to have a talk with you. Thank you, Toby said, his heart giving a little jump of anticipation. A job. Real money. This was the turning point. He dressed quickly in his best clothes, which now felt shabby in this palace, and followed the maid downstairs. She led him not to the main grand living room, but to a smaller, more intimate room on the ground floor. She knocked once and opened the door. This room was different. It was still luxurious, but it felt more like a man's space. The walls were a deep, dark wood, and one entire side was a bookshelf filled with thick, important-looking books. A large, heavy desk made of the same dark wood sat in one corner, covered with neat stacks of paper. John was sitting on a large, comfortable leather sofa, holding a tablet. He was dressed casually but expensively in a simple linen shirt and trousers. "Toby! My brother!" "Come in, sit down," John said, his smile warm and welcoming. He gestured to the sofa opposite him. "Did you sleep well?" "Very well, John." "Thank you," Toby said, sitting down. "This house, it is amazing." "God's grace," John said with a humble wave of his hand, though his eyes shone with pride. "But we are not here to talk about the house. We are here to talk about your future." Toby leaned forward, his full attention on John. "I told you last night, I see a fighter in you," John began, his tone becoming serious and businesslike. "You have been through fire and you did not burn. That is the kind of partner I need. The property business in Lagos is not for the weak. You need to be sharp, you need to be smart, and you need to have courage. You have shown you have the courage." Toby felt a surge of pride. This was the recognition he had been craving. "I have been looking for someone I can trust to handle a new part of my business," John continued. "A very profitable part. It involves acquiring land in fast-growing areas before other people know about it. It is a bit aggressive. You need to move fast and be decisive. I want you to be that person." "This sounds great, John," Toby said, his mind already swimming with visions of success. "But I have no experience. I have no money." John smiled, a wide, generous smile. "That is the beautiful part. I will take care of everything. I will teach you. I will mentor you. And most importantly, I will fund you." He paused for effect, letting his words sink in. "I am going to give you 100 million naira to start your first project." Toby's breath caught in his throat. The number was so large it felt unreal. 100 million, he stammered. "John, that is too much. I can't." "You can, and you will," John said firmly, but kindly. "This is how we start. This is how you build an empire. I am not giving it to you as a gift. It is a business loan. But because you are my brother, there will be no pressure. We are partners." He stood up and walked to his heavy desk. He picked up a thick folder. "It is just simple paperwork. Boring bank stuff, government forms for the business registration, things like that. You know how Nigeria is. Everything must be documented." He dropped the folder on the coffee table in front of Toby. It was much heavier than it looked. Toby looked at the stack of papers inside. The top page was filled with dense, small print and complex legal terms. He flipped through a few pages. Each document was the same, long, complicated, and written in a language he barely understood. Words like indemnity, collateral, and liability jumped out at him. "You know I am not good with all this legal talk, John," Toby said, feeling a little overwhelmed. John laughed, a warm, disarming laugh. He sat down beside Toby and patted him on the back. "My brother, who understands it? It is just a formality. It is for the lawyers and the banks. It is to show that you are the director of the new company and that I am the investor. Simple. Look," he said, flipping to the last page of several documents. "You just need to sign and initial here, and here, and here." He handed Toby an expensive-looking pen. Toby hesitated for a second. His mother's voice, faint but clear, whispered in his memory, "Toby, my son, never sign a paper you have not read." But he looked at John's open, friendly face. This was his oldest friend. This was the man who had rescued him from the streets and given him a palace to sleep in. John was offering him a future beyond his wildest dreams. To question him, to doubt him, would be an insult. It would show a lack of trust. After all John had done for him in less than 24 hours, how could he possibly say no? The memory of his aunt's cruelty and the twins' mockery flashed in his mind. This was his chance to never be powerless again. This was his chance to become someone they could never look down on. He pushed the faint warning voice away. "John, I trust you," Toby said, a determined smile on his face. "Good. That is what I like to hear." John beamed. Toby took the pen. He didn't read a single word. He simply turned to each page John had bookmarked with little sticky notes, and he signed his name. Toby Adekunle. He initialed where the small arrows pointed. The pen glided smoothly across the expensive paper. He signed one document, then two, then 5. He lost count after a while, his hand moving almost automatically. He was signing his future, a future of wealth and respect. Finally, he put the pen down. He had signed every marked page. The stack of documents was complete. "Perfect," John said, gathering the papers with a satisfied look. He placed them carefully back into the folder. "It is done. Welcome to the world of big business, partner." He stood up, his whole demeanor light and cheerful again. "Now, let's go get some proper breakfast. I am starving. Tomorrow, we will go to the bank and I will transfer the funds to the new company account." As Toby followed John out of the room, he felt a thrilling sense of arrival. He was no longer a homeless boy. He was Toby Adekunle, business director. He had just been handed the key to a golden kingdom. He did not see the way John glanced back at the folder on his desk, a quick, unreadable flicker in his eyes before the warm smile returned to his face. He did not see the absolute finality with which John closed the folder, as if shutting a trap. The documents, now bearing Toby's signature, sat on the desk. Their dense, complicated text held secrets Toby couldn't even imagine. He had been so eager to escape his past that he hadn't stopped to look at the door he was walking through. He had traded one cage for another, and he had just signed the lock himself. The 5 months that followed were a whirlwind of excitement and activity, slowly grinding down into a confusing and heavy worry. True to his word, John transferred the 100 million naira into a new company account for Adekunle Properties, with Toby listed as the sole director. John's teaching was, however, not what Toby expected. It was less of a lesson and more of a series of commands. "See this land in Sangatido," John would say, pointing at a map on his tablet. "Buy it. The government will build a new road there next year." Or, "This block of 6 flats in Aja is for sale. The owner is in a hurry to leave the country. Buy it at this price." Toby, armed with a massive bank balance, felt powerful. He would go to the sites, negotiate with the agents, and with John's money, he would buy. He didn't need to understand market trends or feasibility studies. He had John, the expert, guiding him. He acquired the 6 flats in Aja, a parcel of land in Sangatido, and even a small, standalone bungalow in a quiet part of Lekki. He felt like a real estate mogul. He furnished one of the flats in the Aja block and moved out of John's mansion, grateful for the help but eager to stand on his own. This was where the problems began. He put up for rent signs. He posted ads online. He told everyone at his computer class. But the phone didn't ring. A few people came to see the flats, but they always had a complaint. "The price is too high for this area," one would say. "The water system is not good," another would comment. The land in Sangatido just sat there, empty and overgrown with weeds. The bungalow attracted no interest at all. Months passed. The bank account, once so healthy, was now almost empty, drained by the purchases and the ongoing maintenance costs for the empty properties. Toby's initial joy turned to anxiety. He was now responsible for electricity bills, security fees, and upkeep for properties that were generating zero income. He called John, his voice laced with panic. "John, nobody is renting the houses. The money is finishing. What should I do? You said this was a good business." John's voice on the phone was calm, almost dismissive. "Toby, my brother, relax. This is real estate. It takes time. Just be patient. People will come." "But the bills are piling up." Toby insisted. "You didn't teach me how to find tenants. You just said to buy the houses. Did I not tell you the locations are good?" John replied, a slight edge to his voice. The value will go up. Just go to your house and sit down. People will flood in soon. Don't worry. But Toby was worried. The flood of people never came. Instead, there was a crushing silence. He felt a familiar sinking feeling, the feeling of failure he had felt outside Mr. Bellow's house. He had 100 million naira and nothing to show for it but empty buildings and debt. Dejected, he went back to his rented flat one evening, wondering how he would pay the next month's rent. He was sitting in his dark living room, feeling utterly lost, when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hesitantly, he answered. Hello. Good evening. Am I speaking with Mr. Toby Adekunle of Adekunle Properties? A formal, deep voice asked. Yes, this is he, Toby said, his heart thumping. We represent a consortium of investors. We understand you are the owner of the block of 6 flats on Admiralty Way, Aja. Toby's breath caught. Yes, I am. We are not interested in renting. We wish to make an outright purchase. All 6 flats. We are prepared to offer 250 million naira. Toby nearly dropped the phone. 250 million. That was more than double what he had paid. The profit was 150 million naira. Why yes, he stammered, trying to sound professional. That is acceptable. Excellent, the voice said. Our lawyers will contact you tomorrow with the paperwork. Good night. The call ended. Toby sat in the darkness, stunned. Then, a wave of pure, unadulterated joy washed over him. He jumped up, shouting, pumping his fists in the air. He had done it. He was a success. He was a millionaire. All his worries vanished in an instant. John was right. He just had to be patient. He immediately called John, practically yelling the good news into the phone. John! You were right. Someone just called. They want to buy all 6 flats. For 250 million. There was a pause on the other end. Then John's voice came, smooth and congratulatory. I told you, my brother. I told you. See, this is how it works. I am so happy for you. This is just the beginning. They celebrated on the phone, and Toby went to bed that night happier than he had been in his entire life. But in the quiet moments before sleep, a small, cold thought wriggled into his mind, spoiling the perfect joy. It was too easy. The thought wouldn't leave. He replayed the last 5 months in his head. John telling him exactly what to buy. The properties mysteriously failing to attract any tenants, despite being in good locations. And then, out of nowhere, a single phone call from a consortium offering more than double the price, ready to buy immediately, with no inspection, no negotiation. He thought about the documents he had signed in John's private living room. He had never read them. He had no copy of them. What was in them? A darker, more terrifying question formed in his mind. What if John knew this would happen? What if John orchestrated this to happen? What if the 100 million naira wasn't a loan to help him, but a tool to use him? What if he, Toby, was just a front, a name on paper to buy these properties, for a reason he didn't understand? The 150 million naira profit felt suddenly heavy, like a bag of stolen money. The joy was gone, replaced by a deep, chilling fear. He had been so focused on escaping his past that he had never stopped to look at the road he was on. And now, he feared, that road had led him right into a trap far more dangerous than his aunt's balcony.